Hello everybody and welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about two competing apps that can be used for landscape photography, scouting, and planning ahead at home. I'll compare and contrast them, show you what they're both good at and not so good at, and help you make the decision about which one might fit best into your workflow, or maybe how you might use both in different ways. Let's get started. Alright, before we get started, in the interest of full disclosure, I'll just say that neither one of these developers has paid me to promote their apps in any way. There's no compensation involved here. So with that being said, let's get started. I will start off with the Photographer's Ephemeris, or TPE for short, as well as its companion app TPE 3D. Now, on the App Store, TPE is about $10 US, and the TPE 3D add-on is another 12 or so US. So keep that in mind, but they are definitely a great companion to use together. TPE by itself is still a great tool, but when you add the 3D add-on to it, it just makes it ultra powerful for advanced planning, especially at home. I will be demonstrating these apps on my iPad Pro 12.9 inch, but they will obviously work on any iOS device with very similar functionality. So I'll get started. So we'll open up TPE here, and it is kind of preset to a setup I was doing for the Geminid meteor shower coming up, but we'll roll it back to the planning I did for the sunrise photo when I was going out for the elk rut, and I'll show you kind of how to set something like that up first. So I'll roll this back to September, and I'm trying to remember the exact date. Let me pull it up here on the computer just to kind of get it right. Okay, so we're going to preset this to September 13, and it's on day mode right now. And let me find my location up here in Marine Park. You'll see kind of these color layers on there. Those are light pollution layers for planning for night photography. We'll get back to that here in a little bit. So I have it on a terrain map right now. Let me move this into daytime so it's a little easier to see better. I'm going to switch this over to the satellite, and I'll show you the place where I first set up the first week I went to do that sunrise panorama of Marine Park. I kind of use this pullout right here, so if you center that crosshair and then hit the red pin up here in the top right, it will place you there. And I'm going to switch this back to terrain map. So that's the location that I plan to shoot from the first week I went up. So you see the lines there, those kind of show you where, roughly on the compass anyway, the sun is and the moon are going to be at that time. And I'll set this back for sunrise by hitting that pre-planned point there. And then what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to use the tool up here, and I'm going to jump straight into the TPE 3D app. And what that will do is it will allow me to virtually stand on that spot at that specific time, and I can look around and see what's out there. So I'll show you how that works. It's taking me into TPE 3D, and then I'm going to double click on that pin that it brought over from TPE, and it will allow me to stand on that spot, and then I can look around. So what I can do kind of in planning before I go out there, I can roll this back, and then I can slowly scroll it forward and see when is that sunlight going to start to kiss the top of Long's Peak and the surrounding peaks. Well, in this case, on that morning, it was going to be about 6:35 is when that first little golden light is going to touch the top of those peaks. And it's slowly going to work its way down, and you're going to have that deepest color till about 6:50 or so, and then it's going to start brightening up and it'll be less warm. Now it's set to, you see where it says 14 millimeter at the bottom, that's showing you basically what it would look like with a 14 millimeter lens on a full frame. And all I have to do is use the pinch to zoom, and I can zoom in and it'll show me the field of view from a whole bunch of different focal lengths. So I can zoom this out to, let's say, about 35, look around again. This is in horizontal format, and you can flip your iPad up into vertical format and it'll flip with you, and you can set it up that way as well. I'm going to go ahead and flip that back. So before I ever went up there, I could see, okay, sunrise light is going to start on that morning about 6:35, and I'm going to have nice golden light till about 6:50 or 6:55. So that's my sweet spot of time to get the best sunrise light on all these peaks. And I used that information to set up that sunrise panorama that I shot that first week and put into the Elk-Rut video. So that's a quick way to plan a sunrise shot. You could do something similar, sunset obviously. Now, the only real limitation here with this is, it doesn't take, it's terrain mapping only that it's rendering. So it's not showing you stuff like trees or smaller rock formations or buildings or stuff like that. So something to keep in mind, and that's where the AR features, once you actually get to your location, will be very helpful. But you can do a lot of your advanced planning in something like this. Looking around. Now obviously if you have clouds or something like that, that's going to affect the light that you're going to get when you're out there. But perfectly clear, it's going to give you a really good rendering of what you're going to see. And I've used this to plan a lot of sunrise, sunset type shots. So we'll move on to the night mode, and I'll just transition back to TPE. So to do this, I'll show you how I planned night shots up at Hoosier Pass in October that you'll see a video on coming up soon. So I'm going to change the date up here on the top to October 10, which is when I went out for that shot. I'm going to switch this over into night mode, and I'm going to move this earlier into the daylight so that I can find my location easier. Use your normal pinch to zoom and stuff like that, tools to move around on the map. And I'm going to find my location up at Hoosier Pass here real quick. And again, I'm going to put this, well, I know the spot well enough. I really don't need to go into satellite mode here. I'm just going to stay on the terrain map. I'm going to put my pen on that location. We ended up shooting from basically the exact spot that I planned, so that makes it easy. I'm going to drop my pen there, and you can see, take it to Astro End. You can see how it plots the arch of the Milky Way on there, which is really useful. You can see the bigger balls in that arch are where the galactic center is, and you can move it around, see where that's at. So it's a good basic tool like that, and it has the lines for the moon and the Milky Way going across there. So it offers you a great starting point. You can kind of also get an idea of how the arc of the Milky Way is going to look in the sky. Is it going to be kind of tall? Is it going to be more laid over? So, but with that, we're going to jump back to TPE 3D again, because this is really powerful again here as well. So we're going to open this in TPE 3D. It's going to find the spot Once again, we're going to double tap on that pin to zoom in and stand on that location. And then I'm going to turn around and look towards Mount Bros and Mount Lincoln over there, which is how we set up this shot. And for this one, I'm actually going to flip the iPad back to vertical orientation, because I did this as a vertical shot mostly. I'm going to zoom out to about 20 millimeters, because that's kind of where I shot at. And you can see the Milky Way there standing above Mount Lincoln. You can move around your time again by sliding back and forth on the bottom, and move the Milky Way across the sky at different points in the night. Let me flip this back this way for a second just to give a better idea of what we're looking at. I'm actually going to roll this all the way back to the sunset, because we went out there for sunset first. So I was able to tell, okay, the sun is going to set just to the right of Mount Lincoln there, in between Mount Lincoln and Travers Peak. So if there's good clouds or something like that, we'll have a good view of the sunset from there, which we definitely did. And then after it gets dark, you can see the stars there. The Milky Way's off to the left there. And it will slowly move over Bros and Lincoln before the core kind of sets behind Mount Lincoln at, roughly about 9:30, let's say. Now the orange line coming across there is the sun. The white line is actually representing the galactic center, not the moon in this case. I think there's a blue line that represents the moon. And it will also actually represent the moon in whatever phase it is in on that date as well. Let me see if I can make the moon come up there. Probably have to zoom in on it to see it better. See, I forget what time the moon was setting then. Apologies. Anyway, you get the idea. It will actually show you what phase of the moon it's going to be in on that date as it renders this in here. So get this back to about 20 millimeters. And again, it's not showing you trees and stuff like that, rock formations, but you can see you can actually see there the contrast of the light before the moon rises, when it's completely darkness, and as I slide it along later in the night and the moon comes up, you can see starting to get a little brighter there in the peaks. So it must have been a pretty bright moon then once it rose, because it's providing a decent amount of light on the peaks. So just like the sunlight from the daytime plan that I showed you, it will render the moonlight as well. Something to think about. It's definitely very helpful. So you can see the Milky Way there. It gives you a rough outline of a lot of the constellations. You probably noticed that. Super powerful for planning night shots, because when you have terrain like this in mountains, knowing, yes, the Milky Way was going to set on this night at 10 o'clock, but with the terrain and the point we're standing at, well, the core of the galaxy is actually going to drop behind the peak about 9:30 as opposed to 10 o'clock. So if you're planning a shot and trying to get a really precise placement behind a mountain or something like that, super useful to have a tool like this. Now, a weakness of TPE is it does have some AR features. I have not found them to be very user-friendly at this point, so I really can't recommend it for using that. So that is how I use TPE in 3D, TPE 3D. It's definitely some of the most useful $22 I've ever spent. So we'll move on to PhotoPills. Alright, PhotoPills is also an about $10 download from the App Store. Again, like TPE, it is a one-time payment. It's not a subscription-based service. So with that being said, we'll jump right into the app. Now when you open PhotoPills, you'll see all these what they call pills laid out. And PhotoPills does have a planning tool similar to TPE, but it does not have a tool that will allow you to have like a first-person point of view to stand on a spot and look around. It's just that look down on it from above type feature. In this planner tool, it does have, sunrise, sunset times, blue hour, twilight, Milky Way visibility, stuff like that. So it does have a lot of nice features in there, but just doesn't have that first-person point of view tool like TPE 3D offers. So I don't use PhotoPills for very much of my advanced planning. An exception to that would be the meteor showers pill in here, because that lays out all the meteor showers throughout the year. And I'm going to tap here on the Geminids that is coming up. And what that does is allows you to kind of move around and see what the meteor count on a given time is going to be. So when you tap on a meteor shower, it takes you straight to the peak night, which this year in the case of the Geminids is the night of December 13 and 14, Sunday night into Monday. And the peak time is 12:15 a.m. here in my local location, Mountain Time, close to Denver. And it's showing you, okay, at that time you're going to have about 105 meteors per hour, pretty strong. But that Sunday night into Monday, for those of us that have to go to work Monday morning, that's not so handy. So I'm going to scroll back here to Saturday night into Sunday. And what I see there is that's still going to be a pretty strong night from about 4 a.m. From where's it telling me? From about 2:33 a.m. till about 5:30 a.m. you're going to have 50 plus meteors per hour. So that's still pretty good. So at this point, that's when I'm actually planning to go out and shoot the Geminid meteor shower, weather permitting. Let's say, okay, let me go back to Friday night and see what that has to offer. Well, in this case, not so many. That knocks it down to about, at best, about 14-15 meteors per hour. Conversely, say you go past the peak Sunday night into Monday night, that night's pretty weak as well. Kind of taps out at 18 an hour. So the Geminids is very prolific at its peak. That peak is really only a couple nights, Saturday night gets up to about 50 an hour. The absolute peak Sunday night gets up over 100 an hour, but after that it tails off pretty quickly. So I definitely love this feature in PhotoPills. It allows me to take a look at the upcoming meteor showers. It also shows how much moon you're going to be dealing with at the peak, which in this case is 0.2% for the Geminids coming up. That's great. Basically, you're not going to be dealing with the moon all night. It's basically a new moon, so no problem there. But as far as advanced planning, that's about it. Now, it does have some other useful tools in here. The Spot Stars feature. This is one that uses what's called the NPF rule to help you have nice clean stars in your long exposure night photography. You may have heard of the rule of 500, where you divide 500 by your focal length at full frame, and you can use a shutter speed up to that length. So say you're shooting with a 20mm lens, full frame, by the 500 rule you'd have up to about 25 seconds to keep your stars pretty sharp. But in practice, with some of the higher resolution cameras we have now, you will notice that, okay, I am getting some star trails even at that. So what the NPF rule does is helps you narrow in on a time and exposure length for your camera and lens combination to help you focus in on getting really nice stars. So in my case, I shoot with a Nikon D750. I was checking 24mm. Okay, what it's telling me is by the NPF rule, I've got about 11 seconds, whereas by the 500 rule, which it shows in here as well, I would have 21 seconds. But 21 seconds, I'd probably still see some trailing, where at 11 seconds, everything's going to be pretty solid. So that's a useful tool. You can use that in the field or at home. That's just kind of, and oftentimes that's kind of a one-time thing. Once you know the good shutter speeds for your camera lens combination, you're really not going to have to do that again, but it's handy to have because the MPF rule is kind of a complicated calculation. So just being able to go in there, put in your numbers and be done is pretty helpful. So with that being said, I'm going to jump out into the field for a little bit and show you the augmented reality features of PhotoPills that are very helpful and very powerful, and is really the strength of this app. So let's go. Alright everybody, I'm out here at Macintosh Lake, and I'm going to show you some demonstrations on how I use the PhotoPills app out in the field where it really shines. Let's get started. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the PhotoPills app on my phone. And first we'll do some quick looks at it, how it can help you plan like a sun and the moon shot in the field. Now in a wide open location like this, I'm going into the sun pill here, and then I'm going to click on the AR button. A wide open shot in the field like this, my TPE 3D is going to tell me pretty much where the sun is going to set. But if I was in a location with some trees or some rocks or boulders or something like that, this would help me kind of really line that up in the field. And then I'll just kind of scroll back and forth, and you can see how it'll help you tell, okay, this is where the sun is going to be at this time. As you can see, it dropped behind those peaks a little bit ago, about just before 4:30. So that's the sun pill. And we'll go back and we'll go into the moon pill and do something similar with that. I'm going to click on the AR tab again. So as you can see, I'm out here, it's about 4:40. So the moon actually set from this location just to the left of Mount Meeker and Long's Peak over there about 1 o'clock this afternoon. So if I was out here trying to get, that's not an ideal time to shoot a moon set because it's kind of better in a softer light, but if I wanted to come back for a moon rise shot, let's say in the middle of the night, off that way, even though this isn't an ideal spot for that, we'd be looking at probably about 1:15, and then you can look and see how it'll come up there. So again, this is a nice wide open location, but if you're in a location with more trees or rock formations or stuff like that, it could definitely be useful over to help you overcome some of the limitations of TPE 3D. So we'll hit done there, and we'll go back, and I'll also show you the night AR feature with the Milky Way. Now if I was, as you can see, the Milky Way galactic center actually just set behind the mountains, but because it's not dark enough, I can't see it. This also isn't a really dark location, but so it's not really ideal for Milky Way shooting either. But say it was, and I wanted to get, what's left of the Milky Way after it actually does get dark, which would be about that time, that could be an interesting look there with it over Long's Peak. If only it was dark enough here to do that. But I think I can't actually zoom in and out. I thought maybe I could, but so that kind of gives you an idea, and you can also see where the whole kind of arc of the Milky Way would be at that time of day. Something else pretty useful, and I'll bring it up here. To do that, I'll have to actually change the date on this to next weekend for the Geminid meteor shower. Okay, so I'm going to change that date to December 13. I'm going to set the time to about 1 a.m. and let's just do that, 1254. And then I'll bring that back up. Another tool that's in here in the IR feature is it'll show you, maybe I have to go into the meteor shower pill for it to show me. It should be showing up here otherwise. So maybe I'll do that. I guess there is a feature here at the bottom, I didn't notice that, where you can change your focal length maybe, yeah. 13, 26, 66, so those are the 3 lenses on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. That's probably why those have populated there. But that'll kind of change your perspective. So let's go into the meteor showers pill here and go into the AR for that. And I'll do the same thing I did in the other one. I'll change the date to next week. December 13, let's say about 1 a.m. because that's probably when I'm going to go out for the Geminids. So when I'm out there, I can say, okay, where's the gradient point for the Geminids going to be? And okay, now we're seeing some. We're seeing those ones there, monoceratids. I think kind of those ones are smaller because those are smaller meteor showers. My marker for the Geminids. There it is. So 3 a.m. it's going to be like straight overhead. Let's find it there. I'll spin that time back. See earlier in the night, it's going to actually show up in the eastern sky at radiant point, and then it's slowly going to shift over the top as the night goes on and eventually be over in the western sky by morning when the sun's coming up. So rotate that back a little bit. Now that's what that is marking is the radiant point for the meteor shower. That's not necessarily where all the meteors are going to be, but if you're looking to get that shot where like multiple meteors are coming out from the same spot, or they appear to be as you layer them together, you want to point generally at a direction. So those are the main augmented reality features that I use inside PhotoPills. Alright, now that I've showed you how I use both TPE and PhotoPills, I hope that has helped you make the decision about which one might work best for you, or possibly, like me, you can use both of them together. Because honestly, I do use both apps a lot. TPE I use for planning at home before I actually go out into the field, but its AR features are not as strong, and so when I'm out in the field, I rarely use TPE at all. I use it heavily before I go out and for advanced planning, but once I'm out there, that's when I reach for PhotoPills and its more advanced AR capabilities that can help me set up a shot perfectly just the way I want it when I'm in the field. That is definitely the strength of PhotoPills in my opinion, as well as some other features that are good for planning, but it just can't stand up to the ability that TPE 3D has to actually put yourself on a spot at a specific period of time and show you, at least on a clear sky, day or night, what you're going to see with an astounding level of detail, really. PhotoPills just can't compete with that. But once you're out in the field, its AR features are so far superior to TPE and TPE 3D that the opposite is true. TPE just can't really compete right now with the AR features that PhotoPills has to offer. So the truth is, I use both of them together as a team to highlight each other's strengths and weaknesses and really help me just nail in my compositions before that moment of truth comes most of the time, so that I am all set up and ready to go. If you got value out of this video and the information I shared, please give it a like. Maybe hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a new video. I hope you've enjoyed this comparison, and thank you for watching. See you again next time.